welcome back everyone to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. This is Kevin Horde here, and with me is...
Lorenzo Fon. Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Lorenzo?
Good. Yourself, yeah?
I'm doing well. Everybody, we are here today to talk about Section 3 of the Clone Wars animated movie theatrical release. This is titled Castle of Doom this week. So we're looking at about minute 48 and a half to minute 109 and a half. So after this, we've got one section to go to kind of wrap everything up next week. But you got section 3 or 4. So Lorenzo, you want to do breakdown of the episode? You want me to do a breakdown?
Let me see what I got. So they being Ahsoka and Anakin were at the top of the tower thingy.
Correct.
And Ventress was making her way towards them, yeah?
Correct.
Ahsoka and Anakin were in possession of Rotta, Jabba's son.
Correct.
And they had a nice little meeting, and then now Ventress is making her way in. Clones are out by the door, ready to stop her, and then we move on from there, yeah?
Yep. That's where we start. So in the beginning of this episode, we've got a standoff at the garage door, I think is what I called it last week.
Yeah.
So, Ventress is coming in, and they kind of blast up all the clones, and we've got Rex there, who seems to be like the only trooper left, and then he starts fighting some droids and stuff, and Ventress puts the smackdown on him, and then does a little Jedi mind trick on him, which... She makes him contact Anakin, and he actually says, Anakin, this is Rex, where are you? Mm-hmm. And what struck me weird about this little segment is that Ahsoka and Anakin are both like, oh, well, that's weird that's weird of Rex. But they don't respond, like there's no talking back, and then the next thing you see is Ventress is like just in a different room, so... the way it's set up is that like she's gonna use the old Jedi / Sith mind trick to find out where Anakin is, and then just dispose of Rex. But spoiler alert, he comes back later in the episode. Yeah. So what's your take on that?
I did find that curious as well, because both Ahsoka and Anakin really like the trick does not even begin to phase either of them. I don't from what I saw. Like, they both know something's up, and they both realize that it's not Rex saying that. So then, it is weird that Ventress does continue on with the plan, because I guess from her side, she has no reason to believe that it didn't work.
Right.
But then, yeah, your point that they kind of dispatched of all the other clones, and then Rex is just, like, knocked out or something like that, right? Like...
Yeah, it's kind of weird. He just turns up a little bit later, which we'll get to. But one of the questions I had was, is the mind trick effective on him? Is it Ahsoka? No, sorry. Is it Ventress that is saying?
I did the same thing. Yeah.
That is saying Anakin instead of Commander Skywalker, or is it Rex who's not actually under this mind trick giving them a heads up? Which way does it go?
I was trying to figure that out too, if Rex was falling prey to it, and I think he does, right?
And so you think it's just Ventress saying, asking Anakin where he's at?
Yeah, or... I think it's just Ventress giving Rex the verbatim thing to say, not knowing if that's how he would say it anyways, right?
Right.
So it's like Ventress goes on the walkie but doesn't use the code word, which throws off Anakin and Ahsoka, right? Like, that was kind of my read into it.
Okay, next question. Mm-hmm. Most of the time that you see any conversation between anybody with these risk communicators, like one person hits the button and there's a little chime and they're like, Obi-Wan will go, "Hey Anakin, what you doing over there, mate?" And Anakin just has to talk back, like he doesn't have to hit the button. But in this circumstance, Ahsoka and Anakin are staring at Anakin's wrist, talking like, "Oh well, that and they're like, oh, that can't be Rex. Like something's wrong here. Like blah 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 blah." So does Ventress hear all that as well, or
I don't think Ventress hears it, but I don't think Ventress hears it. But I agree that there are some rule changes that are convenient to the plot at this moment.
Right.
I agree with you that for every other usage, the risk communicators seem to be knowing of your intent.
Right. It's like the earpieces in the Avengers. Like sometimes you got to stick your finger in your ear to get something to work, and sometimes
otherwise Hawkeye is still just shooting away, saying shit.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely convenient to plot whenever that is needed. So no, I don't think Ventress is hearing Ahsoka and Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, there's no ringer. It just automatically goes through if somebody's trying to reach you. Yeah.
Right. It's unless like the old Nextel where you like hit the button and you're like, hey, what's going on, man?
Yeah. Push to talk. It's the old push to talk system, if anybody remembers that.
Right.
Yeah, unless you turn the volume down manually, like C-3PO does when they're all in the rest of the gang's in the trash compactor. Yeah.
Yeah, he just turned it off.
Yeah, he just turned it off completely. So they kept trying to reach him, and he was like, "Oh, I forgot about that."
Good thing R2 is there.
Yeah, R2 was like, "Hey, have you checked on these guys?" Yeah. So, yeah, no, I don't know exactly what is up with that.
Okay.
And to me too, it's especially after this long, there is another extended battle scene that happens, which we've been breaking this up. This is what part 3 of 4 for us on
Correct.
Clone Wars. Now, the other thing I want to point out about this fight scene is that I don't know about you, but by this point in the movie, to be sitting down all at once, this fight scene is so boring based on everything else we've seen, only because we've seen it like 4 times already in the last 45 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think that comes down to the issue of that we've talked about before of taking multiple 22-minute segments and sticking them together and making
just mashing them
something
together,
that's roughly an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And the shortcomings of composing this thing like that.
Yeah.
I think we can get to our overall views of how all 4 of these sections come together. When we finish Castle of Salvation next week, maybe we'll just save those comments for that.
For sure.
So, moving forward with Castle of Doom, the episode we're talking about this week. So we had Rex with the little Jedi mind trick happening to him, and then, like I said, it cuts to Anakin and Ahsoka talking, and then it cuts back to Asajj, Ventress, and she's just kind of chit-chatting with some some battle droids in a hallway. Yep. So eventually she makes her way through the castle to the back door where Anakin and Ahsoka are hanging out on another landing platform.
Yeah.
And droids come up and they start shooting, so a door is closed, so it's kind of a step back to where they were at the beginning of this episode, where Ventress is on one side and our heroes are on the other side. So at that point, there's some spider droids that are like crawling up the outside of this rock formation, and I saw that and I'm like, okay, were we overly critical last episode when the ATTEs are walking up the wall? Because these spider droids are doing the same thing. So is it something with the planet? One thing that I feel like I read a long time ago, because I brought up that it was like a magnetic thing that was keeping these walkers stuck to this wall.
Yeah.
was, like the iron or the mineral content in the rock of Teth, and that the planet itself is magnetic, not the walkers or the droids. So is it just extra convenient that the spider droids have the same magnetic walking up wall abilities, or is it something inherent in the planet itself?
I don't know. I still don't.
Which one makes you feel better?
Neither. Like, because there's still that moment in part 2 when they're climbing up where one of them kind of gets blasted back and then starts to fall back, and then like out of 6 legs, it's the front 2 that kind of curl back. But the last 4 are hanging on, right? Like,
right, because it's like it lost its grip.
Yeah.
Right.
So then I see what you're trying to get at and trying to determine.
Trying to make you feel better about this whole thing, man.
I don't think there's a way to do that. Like, I don't think there's anything we're gonna get at, But I agree. I saw the same thing, and I was like, okay, here we go again. Here they're crawling up, and I don't like. If there's anything magnetic, like, I wouldn't affect like a lot of other stuff too, right? Like.
Yeah, you would think so, and I am kind of looking up some stuff on Teth right now on Wikipedia, and it says once colonized by monks of the Baomar order, which we knew that because of the monastery. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got chimes going off on my phone here.
Yeah.
And then it jumps straight to the Clone Wars, and it basically just talks about this whole hut incident and Rotta being kidnapped and taken there, and Ahsoka and Anakin fighting to get Rotta and get out of there, and that's all it says. So maybe this whole magnetic thing is something that I just made up in my head to try to headcanon all this stuff and just make myself feel better about it. But
justify some of this.
I'm okay with it. That's how it works. Because otherwise, like, I don't know. It's the same complaint that people had about R2's rocket jets in Attack of the Clones. Like, you never see it before. You only see it after that probably because people complain about it. Like, all of a sudden, R2's got these rocket jets to, like, fly him around in this droid factory, and in this particular circumstance, all of a sudden, these walkers, which are a weird design anyway for tanks and battle machinery for them to walk around instead of have treads or wheels or something, but for them to be able to use their said feet to transport vertically up walls. It's I don't know. For me, it's borderline. It could be really cool if there was like a solid explanation for it, or if there's not, it's just I could do without it.
Yeah, I could definitely do without it. For me, just them gripping in is like the best thing I got. Like, right?
Yeah,
like every time they go up, they're just kind of slicing in real deeply into that rock. That doesn't also destroy the rock, But I got nothing else beyond that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. So these spider droids kind of shoot up at Anakin and Ahsoka, and perspective being that they're on another outcropping / landing platform. It's kind of silly that it's like shooting at a building. If this were horizontal instead of vertical, they would be shooting at a building when someone is standing on the roof.
Yeah.
But that aside, there are these cool little like bug pod things on the bottom of it. Did you catch that?
No.
So these mosquito things that Anakin and Ahsoka use to move from where they are to where they're going.
Oh, you're talking about the things that Yeah, so like the tanks end up disturbing those guys,
Right.
and a
yeah.
bunch fly off.
Mm-hmm. It's like these weird bug sacks like hanging underneath the landing platform.
Yeah.
And the spider droids, when they're trying to shoot Anakin and Ahsoka, like disturb all these little bugs, and they come out of those things, and then they're flying around, and then Anakin, at that point, it says "fuck it" to everything, and just dives off the platform. Yeah. Meanwhile, Ahsoka's just kind of standing there like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And Ventress is 2/3 through the door. Like, she jabs her lightsabers through like Qui-Gon does. But the door's not as thick, so all she's got to do is like cut a circle. And she's like 2/3 of the way through cutting this circle, and Anakin's like, all right, peace, see you later. Have fun, day 1.5 of Padawan training, and I'm just gonna leave you to this.
And this is already like the third time he has like left her behind too. Because even on the way up, we discussed this last week. We're on the way up,
right?
He jets off, and then steals a freaking droid glider too.
The Stap, right?
Yeah,
is what we decided it was.
Yes, and then zooms back to the top and then like complains that Ahsoka's not there, and then again in this episode just goes, you know what, I'm out of here, just hopping on this bug, you figure it out. And then at this point, who has Rotta?
Anakin does. He does. When he jumps off of the landing platform, he's got Rotta.
So then there's something that happens before that I want to bring up too, is that for a second they're trapped and they're trying to figure out where to go, right? Which is ridiculous to me to begin with, because they climbed up this small plateau. The building's only so big, right? And then they make it to the other side and then get concerned about where they need to go. Like, they already knew there's only so many places to go, right?
Yeah, and actually Ahsoka makes a comment that that the jungle is a bad place. Because, like, Anakin goes, oh, well, maybe it's back to the jungle for us. And she goes, we were in the jungle, and wasn't that a bad place to be? But I don't remember it being a bad place for them to be. Just
kind of walk through it, right? Like, it was foggy and misty.
They, like, land, and then they go over to the bottom of the rocks, and then, like, climbing up.
Yeah.
The Devil's Tower was a bad place to be, but that wasn't in the jungle.
Aren't they just more exposed, basically, up top? Like,
yes. Well,
so then,
kind of, because now they're above the clouds, which I don't know when that happened.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be fog? Maybe?
I thought it was fog at the bottom, yeah. I thought it was just fog or mist or something like that.
Yeah, it very well could be.
Yeah. Then the other thing I found interesting is that within very clear eyesight is another landing platform. And neither Ahsoka nor Anakin think about making their way towards that platform in any form, whether it be flying or heading back in the jungle and then heading that direction.
Well, I think it's a magic platform.
Because it's not there before, right?
Right, you don't see it before, and it's actually Rotta that points it out. Like, hey, maybe we should go over there.
While he's in the backpack looking the opposite direction from Anakin, too. Like,
right.
I'm like, yes, leave it to the weird little thing to just scream and point at something.
The weird little alien with a fatal fever.
Yes, yeah.
Figures out where they're supposed to go. So they turn around, and that's Anakin's intention, right? When he's jumping on this bug, like, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to get over there. But that's not at all what he does.
No.
He just pops back up and then grabs Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka gets on the bug. Or
on the same bug? I don't
remember if she's on the same mosquito or a different mosquito. But I know that it's one of those, like, pop-up gags where Ventress is, like, threatening Ahsoka. She doesn't just outright kill her. She doesn't even, like, try to kill her. She just, like, busts through the door, and she's like, hey, where's Anakin? Like, exactly, I don't want to fight you. Like, where's Anakin, you know? Yeah. And then Anakin, like, pops up like Marty McFly on the DeLorean in Back to the Future 2 or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, here I am," and then they're on the way. R2 takes off with his rocket jets, and they fly over to this other platform that is clearly, like, not too far away, like a couple football fields. Like, it's in the distance, but it's close enough that you can see what the building looks like, and that there's a ship there, and whatnot. And it looks like it's at a higher elevation. You'd agree with that, right? Like, they're not looking down on it, they're looking up at it.
Yeah.
So they fly over there, and they meet this butler droid type guy that they had ran into previously. We should have brought him up last episode, but we didn't. So,
yeah, I wrote a note about this caretaker droid because I honestly have no memory of this caretaker droid.
So he was there. He would have been there, I don't know, 20 minutes ago in the movie, like when they first get to the top of the rock, and then they go inside the monastery. Ahsoka runs into him, and she talks to him for a little bit. He then leaves, and that's when he calls Ventress.
Yeah.
That's how Ventress showed up there.
Okay.
He alerts Ventress. That's when Ventress shows up. Then some other stuff happens, and that's when the battling starts going on and whatnot on the top level when they're actually in the monastery. So that's where he's from. But then he just, like, after Ahsoka talks to him initially, she just kind of, this droid just kind of disappears. And I guess climbs down a really, really, really long ladder to get down to the jungle floor, and then up a really, really, really long ladder to get up to the other area. So he's there with some battle droids, I guess, doing something with this ship that they see.
Like packing up the ship or something like that.
Kind of. I mean,
like he was putting supplies onto it or something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like, carrying boxes is like the de facto, like, background action in the Clone Wars. It's probably been in every single episode so far.
Oh,
it's
surely.
Like somebody or some groups of people, like, carrying boxes around. So then Ahsoka's like, what the fuck? You know, 'cause she figures out that this butler droid is working for the bad dudes. And straight up fucking cuts his head off.
Yeah,
like,
I found that
without
out
hesitation.
Of
like,
too.
looks at them, and she's like, "Hey, fuck you, asshole," and just cuts his head off.
Yeah, I found that very bizarre too.
Which is insane.
Well, again, jumping forward, Anakin cutting off Dooku's head. Spoiler alerts is a major moment. Right?
Right.
But then for Ahsoka
But it's okay to do to droids.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
and not even just battle droids, but like
an actual caretaker droid. Like,
yeah, this is essentially some type of protocol droid. You don't know exactly what it is, but
it's some sort of mildly sentient droid. Yeah, you know, like,
right. Kind of looks like 4LOM from Empire. Right. And you know, C-3PO in body, but with a different head. Yeah. Well, not anymore. The bigger eyes. So I mean, now just C-3PO in body with no head.
But then, what are the rules though? Like, so we know C-3PO gets dismembered, and he operates again, right? Like, even in Attack of the Clones, his head goes onto a battle droid,
right?
And then his body has a battle droid attached to it,
right?
And he's both halves of him are still sentient, and then they get reconnected,
right?
So then theoretically, this droid could still be alive. Yes.
Yeah, maybe, unless there's like something in the neck that when she cut the neck, she like cut through some critical component that
unless like there's a chip there of some sort.
Right.
But like if it's just wires and stuff, we're good, right? Like,
yeah, maybe you'd have to go through and like reconnect like all the wires, and they would be like spinal cord nerves or something.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Because it wasn't just... He didn't just get his head, like, knocked off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had his head cut off with a lightsaber.
Yeah. So, but either way, Ahsoka does not give a fuck about this droid.
Not at all. Not one fuck, not two fuck.
So anyways, Ahsoka and Anakin get on the ship, and then at some point, our friend Obi-Wan finally shows up, yeah?
Yes. So, well, he doesn't show up with them. He shows up at the...
On the other side of the same... Or of the first tower.
Correct.
Yes.
So, you
so Anakin and
actually...
Ahsoka
Kind of while they're like... They fly over there, they cut the droid's head off.
Yeah.
They get into the ship, and then they're fucking around trying to get it started. And I'll come back to that because I find that highly annoying. Like, all right, we got the Millennium Falcon, haha, like, it doesn't work all the time, but Han is a badass pilot, and, like, he can get it to do what he wants or what he needs when he wants to, right?
Yeah.
Get it. Not every fucking ship has to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have another gripe about that as well. Then we see Obi-Wan coming in, the Jedi Star Destroyer, Red Star Destroyer, like, shows up, the Republic Cruiser or whatever they call them. Some fighters lead the ship, and I'm not going to bitch about shields this time.
Yeah.
And they fly down to the planet, and Obi-Wan makes the comment like, oh, Anakin's in trouble again, go figure, like, let's go save his ass.
Yeah.
So they fly down there, and then Asajj Ventress actually talks to some fucking droid, commander droid or whatever. I think he's painted yellow. And she's like, oh, backups arrived, so good luck. We got to fight these dudes, and don't let anybody leave the planet, and, don't let anybody live, like, kill everything, fucking make everybody dead, blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you see is Rex.
Yeah.
It's Rex and one other clone in the middle of this fucking docking bay next to, like, a destroyed-ass ATTE.
Yeah.
Like, fucking destroyed. Legs shot off, the thing's got fucking holes in it, it's smoking all over the place. And you see two clones, and that's it. And so the droids, like, come up to rearrest these clones? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't...
They're already, like, under arrest. They got, like, hands on heads, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is when they make that funny-ass fucking joke that I was talking about last week.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you skipped forward on... I noticed that, yeah.
Ah, damn. I was... But that's all right. I can
You're
talk
good,
about
you're
it again.
good. Yeah. Where the droid starts counting.
Yeah, because he's
which
like...
is enough
the
time.
droid's like... we have you outnumbered. And Rex straight up goes, no you don't. And he's like, what? 1, 2? And he only counts to 2 because there's only 2 clones there.
Yeah.
And then Rex just fucking punches him and spins his head around. Which is corny. But hey, it's a kid show. It's okay.
Yeah. But... yeah.
And then grabs his blaster. Like, at what point do the fucking... Because at what point do any battle droids just, like, start firing? Like, shouldn't they have just turned around and, like, all of them been like, pop, 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 like, pew, 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 you know?
See, that's what I'm, like, that's what, like, this is why these little moments bother me, is because why if they're so gullible, why haven't the clones just dispatched them at all? Like, how is this a fair fight? Or not even how is it a fair fight? Like, how is this a fight at all, right?
I think it's sheer numbers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, just a lot of droids being replenished and a lot of clones being replenished all at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we see a lot of things blow up and get shot, and I'm not sure that either the clones or the battle droids are really that good of shots, right?
No.
Like,
yeah. They're both equally kind of...
I think they point and they shoot, but I don't know that they necessarily shoot at what they point at, you know? And so this miraculous fucking thing happens, and these 2 clones overtake, like, 14 droids or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. They're just, like, dodging blaster fire and using the droids as like, I'd say human shields, but they're not human. So as just regular shields, I guess.
Yeah.
And
just metal shields.
It kind of cuts back and forth between this little clone battle and Obi-Wan and the gunships, like their aerial battle with the vulture droids. And when it does that, you see the Republic cruiser like in atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So the big ass space boat pulls up and drops off all the little space boats. Mm-hmm. And the little space boats like go into the harbor, aka the planet, to fight the bad robot boats. Yeah. And then the big space boat just like follows them in. Like, is that what you're supposed to do? Don't you like, you're dropping a, I've never seen a fucking Star Destroyer like stop, just let all the TIE fighters out, and then just follow the TIE fighters into battle.
Also couldn't they just all keep going at the same time? Like, does the Star Destroyer need to stop? Wouldn't that just be extra momentum for the various fighters popping out of it?
Maybe. I think that's like that light speed thing where it's like if you're traveling almost at the speed of light and then like shoot light out, it's still just the speed of light. Like it's not the speed of light faster than you're traveling.
Plus that, yeah.
You know?
I mean, that works for light photons, but we're still talking about ships, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you're launching a ship forward, you're going to have that extra momentum of whatever is flying. Right?
Inertial dampers and inertial compensators.
Yeah. So
I think that's it.
That's just make it up more tech for the Clone Wars here.
I believe so. For sure. So in the meantime, Ventress talks to Dooku, right?
Yeah.
And what he says is, you know, he says, "Oh, do you have the hut?" And she's like, no, like, Anakin got the hut. I'm so sad." Mm-hmm. And what he tells her is basically, well, not even basically, I think the line is, "We are the only ones that can give the hut back to Jabba." And then he pauses and he says, "alive." And then like in transmission. And I liked that. It's that subtle little Dooku stirring the fucking pot. Like, because he's at Jabba's castle right now, and he was probably like, "Ooh, I gotta take a leak, you know, I'll be right back." And then he talks to Ventress and is like, and tells her, "Hey, fucking bring back the hut. You bring back the hut, or you kill the hut." Mm-hmm. Like, either one.
Yeah.
Either one works for him. Either one works.
He has no real
in their
stakes
favor.
In it. Yeah.
Which is nice, but the way that he delivers that message, and in these shows, and even in the live action movies, a criticism often is the dialogue, and this little tiny snippet of only we can bring back the hut alive is just, it's got some subtlety to it, and it's less. You know, I mean, he very well could have said, "Ventress, either you bring back the hut or you kill the hut." He could have just had the conversation that you and I just had with Ventress, but he didn't have to, which was good.
So it's the one bit of subtlety that this entire movie has.
It is one so far it is one of the only ones we've been able to point out.
Yeah, everything else has been a little surface level, shall we say?
For sure. This we're starting to get a little bit of depth here.
Yeah, just slightly. Yeah.
Which is why I said, 15 episodes from now you're going to be on board.
We'll see.
So if we get if every 5 episodes we get a little inkling of depth, maybe we'll get there eventually. So after this, she hangs up. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if she talks to the droids again, but it's still like droid battle on planet against what was 2 clones, and now there's like a whole bunch. There's like 15 clones. something like that.
Because
I don't know
Obi-Wan
where
is
those other 13 came
resupplying
from.
them. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
but
Rex is still floating around down there somewhere, right? Like,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the next time that you see Rex, it's not just Rex and one other dude. It's like Rex, the one other dude, and like 8 or 10 other guys.
Yeah, another horde of clones, yeah.
And this is before Obi-Wan makes planet side. Like, he's in atmosphere, but he hasn't touched down yet. And of course, when he does, he goes to Ventress.
Yeah.
So what do you got? What are your comments on Ventress and Obi-Wan meet again?
I like that his battle stance is reintroduced, where he throws 2 fingers forward. Chronologically, story-wise speaking, this would be the first appearance of that stance, right?
Does he do it? Does he do that stance when he is on Kamino?
I don't think he does it on Kamino. He does it against Grievous only in the live action, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I would say yes.
I think you only see it against Grievous in Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a cool touch to see that Obi-Wan kind of has a standard starting stance, right?
Right.
But then, like my complaint about the previous fights between Ventress and Anakin and Obi-Wan, is that she makes some weird tactical maneuvers, such as throwing her goddamn cape at Obi-Wan.
Oh, did she do that?
Yes. She just randomly whips off her capes and throws it at him, and he just like slices into it or whatever, and was like, is barely phased, right? But this is a woman that throws books and then tries to throw a blanket essentially at a dude.
Did she trying to get him, under the blanket?
Like, she's just, I don't know, like,
I think that's what it is.
But like, if it didn't work the first time, what is she thinking about it working this time? Like, I don't, right?
Here was my note. In completion, I wrote, last time they wanted to have sex but couldn't because Annie was there. This time they blame their frequent encounters on Annie. I said, this is just fuel for their sexual frustration. And I said, just do it already. Kill the droids, fuck, then escape. Like, that's what seems like should be going on.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan definitely is always kind of bringing the Gaston-like.
It's like this sexual coyness. It's interesting.
It's a weird confidence he's bringing to the table that I think Asajj Ventress doesn't know what to do with, right?
Right.
Hence, she's throwing books and capes his way to just keep the sexual tension away.
Maybe Dooku wasn't really that great of a Jedi. Like, maybe that's why he gave up, because he sucked at it, and that was his fighting style. Like,
just
Mace Windu has what's Form 7 lightsaber fighting? Vapage? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
I think so.
Beyond, yeah.
It's something. I think it's Vapage. But that's like the 7th form of lightsaber combat that Mace Windu invented, and like takes you on the edge of the dark side to like fully meld into this fighting style that's supposed to be nigh unstoppable, right?
Mace would, yeah.
And I'm guessing that Dooku's fighting style would probably be like form like 3/4 then, which includes throwing books and capes and
why do the
thumb wars maybe?
Because Dooku and Ventress both have capes, but
because they're fucking badass.
I mean, what tactical purpose do they serve? Like, we all saw Incredibles, right? Like,
I think that, yeah. Well, that's true. They're bad guys, so they have to have capes?
I guess.
Or I think Ventress is probably to keep her back warm because, like, if you look at her shirt,
She's wearing a tube top essentially too, right? Like,
no, it's like a full open back. Like, she's got sleeves on it, which are kind of like bandage wrappings, and then like her turtleneck is kind of like a bandage wrapping, and then from like her turtleneck down on the back is like open all the way down her spine. So
it's just to cover it up. Like,
I guess so.
She's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I've never made the connection that Anakin never has a cape until he turns Vader. Then Vader has a cape. Like, where's the cape come from, and why?
I know that in the EU, Jason Solo, which would be Darth Vader's grandson, half of the twins that Han and Leia have, Jason Solo eventually turns to the dark side, but in the beginning he is like a real high-ranking military officer that is kind of the enforcer of what was the New Republic and kind of changes into this other dictatorship, and so he becomes kind of the new Emperor / Vader all in one, right? But he wears a cape, and it's not only because like his grandfather wore a cape, but it was like to instill confidence and like just have this air of superiority over non-cape wearing folk, I think.
All right.
So I think maybe like status, and I mean, not everybody can pull off a cape. If I put a cape on and started walking down the fucking road, I wouldn't look like Darth Vader, I'll tell you that much.
No.
I wouldn't look like Jason Solo either. I would look like some schmuck with a cape on.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what else you have on either. It just wouldn't look right.
Right.
You know, it's like people who wear fedoras with a t-shirt.
I know some people like that.
Surely you do. I think we all do. And we don't say anything. Does that make us all complicit?
Now, is it fedora or a trilby?
What's a trilby?
A trilby, like what a lot of people think a fedora is. Like Indiana Jones wears a fedora. Michael Jackson wore a fedora. But like the smaller hats with like the small brim and like the little indentations on the side and the top.
So that
trilby.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
But everybody just calls them fedoras.
Yeah, they're kind of lumped in, you know.
Correct.
Like, I got baseball cap, fedoras, and like flat caps.
Flat caps. Or like a newsy hat.
Newsy
as
hat,
other people call them.
Page boy hat. Yep. So that's what I got.
So
this week on Fashion Lessons, capes and fedoras are out.
This is types of hats by These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For.
Yep.
And
so
when not to wear a cape.
I think we are both officially saying no to the fedoras and capes. So
I'm all right with fedoras. I don't mind. I really don't mind.
Only if they're practical. Like, if you're in the jungle and you got, like, that wide brim, like, Alan Grant Jurassic Park fedora, sure. Have at it. Friday night at the bar? No.
Yeah. I once wore my graduation hat to go pick up some pizza.
Oh, boy.
And everybody kept congratulating me. And I was like, for what? And they're like, well, did you graduate? And I was like, yeah, like 6 years ago. And they're like, why are you wearing your graduation cap? And the only excuse that I had is that I needed a hat, and it was the closest one that I could find. So I put it on, and that's what I wore to pick up pizza. So
nice.
That being said, I have no problems with the fedora.
Okay. All right.
So getting back to the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan comes down, starts fighting Ventress. After that, we got three things going on. Obi-Wan fighting Ventress, Rex fighting droids, and the real exciting part of Anakin trying to get this ship to start.
Yes, let's get back to that. Yeah,
So my other gripe is that if beheaded butler droid was there loading this fucking ship, and he's supposed to be the caretaker of this monastery, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this is like the garage of the monastery, right?
I guess.
Kinda?
Yeah.
Or like the neighbor's garage, maybe.
Yeah, because we're on a different platform, I guess. So I was trying. Yeah, that was the other thing. I was trying to figure out what the various platforms were. They're never really explained, right?
Right.
They're just different buildings that all look alike, right?
Yeah, or different spires.
Yeah.
It sounds like there was more than one monastery on Teth.
Teth, yeah.
So this is either another monastery or like the gardener's quarters or something. But to get back to my point,
yeah,
right. Why is this fucking droid loading up a ship that doesn't even fucking start? Like, why does Anakin need R2 to like? And it's not like when you see Han Solo and Chewbacca working on the Millennium Falcon, it's getting pummeled by fucking asteroids or like shot at by the Empire. They're running around and like, throw me a hydro spanner and fucking give me this and try this and rewire that thing. But this is literally Anakin sitting in a chair and he's like, hey, R2, like, try flipping the switch off. Oh, shit,
Yeah.
that didn't work. Okay, now turn the dial to the left. Oh, sweet, we're good.
Great. Yeah.
That's all we needed.
Also, it's weird because he's the mechanic. So yeah, like if R2 can fix it, then there was nothing that was really disconnected to begin with, right? Because he's only going through the port thing, right?
Yeah, all he's doing is spinning the dial.
Yeah,
so he's
the dial.
literally just changing setting. That's like my car doesn't start, so I'm fucking turning on the AC and turning off the AC and fucking with like retuning my radio.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all he's doing.
Yeah,
and I
which
understand
has nothing to do with the mechanical system, like
right. It's nothing mechanical. It's simply the settings of whatever
yeah
is going on with the ship, and that doesn't make either of them great repairmen.
Yeah, exactly. But we have knowledge that Anakin is a decent mechanic of some sort. He built C-3PO. He built a pod racer. But he's just this one I have no answers for you either. I have the same issues with it,
right.
you know. And it was just one of those, again, just plot conveniences to have some sort of issue for these folks when otherwise there really shouldn't be at all, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then in the middle of all this too, we kind of briefed over it, but Rotta has been sick this entire time. Like, he has this fever.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because it's really like Rotta is kind of the MacGuffin for this entire movie.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in section 1, we, I guess, set up our protagonists. In section 2, we introduce the MacGuffin and set up our antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
In section 3, we are solid MacGuffin transport in this movie currently. So, yeah, Rotta is sick, and one of the comments that Ahsoka makes is that he is turning every shade of green except for the color green that he's supposed to be. Yeah. And that convinces Anakin to next tell his buddy Rex and say, hey, sorry, I promised I'd be there to help you out, but I can't make it. I gotta help this little dude. And
which I did write down his response to that. I did like Rex's response, where the mission always comes first, sir.
Right.
Which is kind of a badass thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of know that you're pretty much fucked, right? Like,
yeah, you're basically saying it's okay. You can let me die, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
Do what you need to do.
Yeah, go do your thing. That was pretty cool. That was like the one little bit of darkness in this otherwise oddly light story. You know, that kind of reminded me that there are things at stake, right?
That's a pretty tough realization to be in. Be you a clone or a droid or, you know, a Jedi or a soldier or other, you know, like when you realize at that point that whatever is happening is more important than your life. Yeah. And you can admit that. And it's not like Rex gives up. Like, he keeps on fucking fighting.
Yeah, he keeps fighting. Yeah.
He's, you know,
he just
he's
knows
in a hopelessly lost
he knows
situation.
No help is coming. Now, here's the annoying part, though, is that the mission comes first, but it's this tiny little thing that keeps, again, burping and farting. Like, the fact that Rhoda introduces massive fart jokes to the universe, like...
Right.
That was just the one thing where I was just like, oh, God, here we go. We are in full childish fart joke territory. Like,
right.
He's making all sorts of noises. And again, I discussed it in the last episode, but the animation on Rhoda is just atrocious. Like, there's no quality control on what's going on with him. So he's neither cute nor adorable. And then he's just changing colors.
Yeah, I think I described him as a booger. And that's pretty much what he looks like. Like a booger with eyeballs, a mouth, and some stubby little T-Rex arms that shoot out of where his ears should be.
Yeah. So it's just like this weird upside down teardrop shape of a creature.
He's like a redesign of Slimer that's not as good.
Yeah, that's not nearly as adorable as he needs to be. So, so that was like my only thing. Like there are these little glimpses where like you get a line like that from Rex, and then you immediately go back to Ahsoka and Anakin having car troubles, and Rhoda's all puking all over the place, and they need to figure out what's going on with that. Neither of them are apparently doctors,
Obviously.
They just know that he's sick and need to do something, but they leave it at that to some degree. Ahsoka tries to help. Right?
She does try to help. And Anakin tells her to go back to the sick bay, essentially. Go back to the medical bay and fucking give him something.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's just grabbing at whatever is available there, yeah.
So what kind of ship is this?
I don't know, because, like, again, they were loading stuff onto it, so was it just some sort of basic transport?
I think it's like a freighter, right?
Yeah, but it's not a big one, right?
No, it's not a real big freighter, but it's
got a tiny med bay on it.
Right.
And there was a med droid back there, right?
Well, it's not even a med droid, like it's a med droid program. So
yeah.
Ahsoka makes her way back to med bay, and there are two boxes on the wall that say medical and Arbesh. It's the only Arbesh we get in like this entire fucking movie so far. So Cat and Mouse, the first episode that we talked about, had like pages and pages and pages and pages of Arbesh, and this so far has one word.
Yeah.
Medical, and that's it. So Ahsoka like opens up this box that says medical that's hanging on the wall, and this hologram projection of a med droid that looks similar to 21B kind of appears in the corner, and she says, "Hey, I got a sick Hutlet here. Any chance you can help me out?" And he just kind of scans the hut, boom, back and forth like a tricorder, and I don't even remember what he says, but it's basically a take two of these and call me in the morning joke.
Yeah.
Because he
like literally just
somehow Ahsoka gets a pill to give him, right? And
but it's like the only pill available anyway. So like there's there's a ship with one option on it. You still call the med droid, and the med droid is like, well, the only option is taking that one pill that's available to you.
Right.
Right.
Which is probably like Beano or something.
Yeah. So
he says take
steps.
it.
Yeah.
He says take it, and then says, if that doesn't work, contact a real doctor, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's kind of a stoogey joke, but
but then why is it there? Why does it come up?
Because
what is it?
I was about to say it's a show for kids, but I enjoy this show, so maybe it's not just a show for kids.
No, I'm just confused that like in a medical emergency, that if that is what comes up and it's already being hologrammed in, why wouldn't it contact an actual med droid that would have information for you?
Right, and why does the med droid have a sense of humor programmed into its hologram projection of itself? Like,
is that what you want if you're dying from whatever could happen on a weird normal freighter?
Right.
That was my one again, the tonal shifts in all of this is just
Right,
that's where I'm having issue. Yeah.
Like the droid comes in, he's like, "Oh shit, I got my head cut off," and the hologram med droid's like, "Ooh, put a piece of tape on it. And if that doesn't work, good luck.
Have
Fuck
fun.
off."
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But anyway, so the ship gets fixed. They're flying off towards Tatooine.
Uh-huh.
Rotta gets better. So Rota's going home.
Yeah, stabilizes. I think,
Stabilizing
at first.
Yeah.
And
not continually getting worse, essentially, yeah.
Yeah. So that brings up a point that I was talking about earlier when I called this other second spire like a magical fucking spire.
Mm-hmm.
So now they take off and they're flying back towards the monastery.
Yeah.
Right. So they flew over on some giant fucking mosquitoes and it took them like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Now they're in a fucking transport, which is now, when they take off, they have to fly up to the monastery, when before it was above the monastery and they flew up with mosquitoes, and now they take off with a ship and they fly back up
the other way.
Up the other way.
Yeah.
And it's like a 3-minute flight. It was like 15 seconds in a mosquito. Now it's like 3 fucking minutes away via transport
An actual
ship.
Actual ship that is designed to carry stuff. Yeah.
Right, and the Millennium Falcon in 3 minutes can fly from like fucking Jupiter to Uranus.
Yeah.
Right? But this thing takes 6 times as long to fly what a mosquito can do.
It's taking the long way around to go back up, even though that's not where it was before. Yeah.
And isn't there some shenanigans that go on en route? They're kind of flippy dipping around and R2's like sliding around back and forth because he's not anchored to the floor. And I remembered writing something about Ahsoka's like head tails. Like there's gravity in the ship, so when they turn over, like her head tails flop
towards
the ceiling.
Yeah,
which would be down, but
from their frame of reference, it's headed up towards away from their feet. Yeah.
Correct. Away from her feet, and then gravity like reverses at one point in time, but I don't get the whole like, when does momentum and gravity affect what's inside a ship? Is it only in atmosphere? Like, how far outside of atmosphere do they have to get? Because when a ship is flying through space, they can fucking corkscrew and spin and do all kinds of stuff, and Luke Skywalker's lightsaber on his belt isn't like flopping up and smacking him in the face or anything, right?
Other than maybe in an X-wing because of how tight the quarters are. Okay. I've always been under the impression that every ship is still generating its own gravity of some sort.
Right. Yeah?
So especially like the big Star Destroyers, obviously you have people walking around,
Right.
That's obvious. But then you can see in some of the movies where like the one that's crashing into the Death Star in Return of the Jedi.
The A-Wing?
The big Star Destroyer. The massive the biggie that
okay.
They take down. So as it starts going nose down into the Death Star, everybody on that ship is still kind of falling towards the nose, correct?
I don't think so. I think they're falling toward the floor.
So even yeah, that's a good question. Because
like,
I always
even
assumed...
when they're in the Millennium Falcon and they fucking take off and they're vertical, like pointing away from the planet, like the gravity in the Millennium Falcon is still toward the floor.
Towards the floor, yeah.
And so if it spun a 180 and was still pointed away from the planet, it's not like Leia's
like they're still...
hair would have fallen toward the ceiling.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right, because like in space, they never bring up the idea of a universal orientation. Yeah.
Correct.
So two ships could be looking at each other, one flip the other way, and yeah, both parties' hairs will be headed towards their feet.
Correct.
So that I agree with. Yeah.
Now, I imagine there's some sort of gravity generator, but I'm wondering...
In each ship. Oh, if you're away from a planet. So we're talking about away from a planet.
I guess? Like, is that when it kicks in?
Does one get overtaken by the other? Like...
I have no idea.
Yeah, that I don't.
I'm trying to think of another time when regular gravity, planetary gravity, would trump ship gravity, and the closest thing that I can think of is when BB-8 is rolling around in the Millennium Falcon,
Force Awakens,
and the Force Awakens. That's like the closest thing, but I think that's because he's a fucking ball.
So he's getting tossed around more than anything.
Right. It's not like it's not gravity. It's not that.
It's just the inertia.
That Ray flips the ship over and then he's falling toward the ceiling. It's that he's not anchored down and he's
just getting tossed.
Yeah, he's like a marble in a bowl that you're shaking around.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I'm trying to think. The only thing I can think of. Yeah, like if a ship fails and it starts falling towards a planet, so like the assumption of the Star Destroyer that we see on Jakku, right? In Force Awakens, like at some point that thing fails and has fallen down.
Right.
So then, in that case, probably since the thing has failed, everybody's going towards the nose. Yeah.
I would say so.
Okay.
At some point when, like past the point of no return, and well, I don't know. I'm second guessing that.
Yeah.
So think back to Revenge of the Sith, okay? And the invisible hand is being piloted by Anakin, basically solo. Not Anakin solo, but Anakin alone is piloting the ship.
Yeah.
And they extend all flaps and drag pins, and the ship breaks apart. And Obi-Wan even says, "Oh, well, at least we're flying half a ship."
Yeah.
And they have to at some point in that be basically nose down. But they're not smashed into the fucking control panels or up against the view screen.
Is it because for them it might be because it's such a high speed of
that it's pushing them back?
Yeah, like they're already going at velocity of the ship that they're in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be sucked in, but say like there's a ship floating above Jakku that just then starts tipping over. Yeah. Like
it's being pulled in via gravity.
Yeah. Then people are headed towards the front, like on the Titanic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when one ship's gravity takes over and when planetary gravity does. That's a very good question. I've never thought in full yet.
But we're definitely in agreement that ships have their own gravity.
Yeah, ships definitely have their own gravities. Even little X-wings, I would say.
Yes.
Based on how they're all positioned in there.
Oh, speaking of X-wings, another nice touch that I saw in this episode, back in '77 when George Lucas was shooting Star Wars: The Motion Picture, when they did like the in cockpit shots of the X-wings, they kind of bobbled around, right? Yeah. They had a little bit of not rotation, not like play in the steering, but just kind of like a little bobble all the time, where the starfield in the background was moving just a little bit. When you see Obi-Wan and the other starfighters, I guess, bomber ships, whatever they are, they have that same little bobble to them.
Yeah.
In this episode.
Nice.
Which is nice because I like when you see Poe Dameron in his X-Wing, yeah, he can shoot down like 15 fucking TIE fighters in like 12 seconds. But he doesn't have that little bobble when you see him in his cockpit. Like, he's just balls to the wall, like 100% steady. It doesn't have that little just play of motion.
I think
it feels like he's just sitting inside something with things moving past him or images moving past him rather than...
Well, I know, like, say, I think stylistically, like in The Force Awakens, there's the shot where the camera is right outside of the wing.
Kind of like they did with Iron Man and flying in the original Iron Man movie.
Yeah, so in my head, it was like, it's obviously not what they use, but it's more like that camera is locked on to the ship, yeah.
As opposed to opposed to the camera being still and the ship moving.
Yeah, as opposed to like a guy in a car behind a ship. Right? So like imagine it's like let's bring it back to Earth. If it's a car chase that's happening, it's the difference between having a camera on a car following the car that you're trying to take a picture of.
And versus a guy just sitting in the car holding a camera.
Like on the roof of the car, right?
Oh, that makes sense.
That's how I felt about it stylistically, but I didn't notice it in Clone Wars, so I'm that is a curious thing you bring up. But that's how I've always felt about it, because especially like I know in the original movie, even the side shots, you kind of see the ship floating up and down a little bit, you know. Even if the camera's still keeping speed with it, right? You know, you kind of see that cockpit just bobbing up and down.
Yeah, there's a little bit of jostling to it.
Yeah. So that's not something I've explicitly thought about, but it's interesting you bring up. I'll keep an eye out in future episodes if Clone Wars does that, and then even as I revisit the movies. Yeah.
Good, wonderful. So, I'm just gonna keep making noises.
Yeah. What else? So what else happened? So at this point, Anakin and like I said, Anakin, Ahsoka, Rotta are headed towards Tatooine, back to Jabba.
So they're not even off planet yet.
No.
We have one more step. We have one more step to get through before they do that.
Oh boy. So they're still on Teth.
They're leaving Teth.
Yes. And
they pull up. They get out of atmosphere. There's still some dogfighting going on around them, which is pretty cool. There are vulture droids that are pursuing their ship.
Yeah.
And they're shooting at the ship that they're on, right? Yeah. Which the name escapes me currently. Do you got that off the top of your head?
The ship that they're on? No, I got no.
I don't either. I'll have to look that one up. So they're flying towards the Republic cruiser. Right?
Yeah.
And the Republic cruiser starts shooting at them. Yeah. So this is a case of basically three enemies in battle. So you got the Republic, you got the droids who are fighting each other. Then you have this other ship that shows up, and they're both fucking shooting at them. And Anakin's like, whoa, like chill, hey, it's me.
That's right. I remember that, yeah.
And we know that Yularen is not the greatest commander that we've seen.
Yeah.
So what was his decision process here? Like, the droids are shooting at that ship, let's shoot at them too. Or
I was curious about that too. Like, so,
you know.
Yeah, so like even though it looks like an enemy combatant ship, maybe, right?
Right.
But then if you're seeing the other droids shooting at it, like are they just not paying attention? Is that, for them to start shooting at it, and they dispatch a few ships against it too, right? Like,
right.
So
it's gotta be something like that.
I got nothing for you on that one. That was another weird little leap of logic that I was trying to pay attention to, and I had nothing, absolutely nothing. That was like, okay, there's again nobody in this war is paying any attention, which is why both sides are making no progress. Like.
Yeah, I actually had fewer complaints about the kind of the decision making throughout this episode as I did in the two 2 or 4 previous to this, you know.
Yeah.
There seemed to be less in your face. We're making bad decisions. Fucking deal with it. Slightly.
Well, look, for me, it's just it's just continuing the series of bad decisions, right? Like,
I think it was definitely like a continuation of bad decisions from the past, but it was less active bad decision in your face.
Well, yeah, it wasn't
If that
freaking
makes
Ahsoka
sense.
walking straight into a minefield sort of thing, right? Like,
There was that whole the Anakin leaving her to ostensibly get fucked up by Asajj Ventress, but
which, speaking of more odd decisions, just kind of jumping around. So we do see Asajj and I believe Obi-Wan fight with lightsabers, correct?
absolutely.
And then Asajj then connects. She's originally dual sabering against
Yes,
Obi-Wan.
and she's got like bent sabers, like
they're like asymmetrical.
like Dooku does. Yes.
Yeah, so rather than connecting in a way to make the blades on the same plane, they're parallel, but they're both offset a little bit from one another.
So it's kind of like a slight S curve.
Yes, right in the middle.
But I think if she like, I wonder if she can orient them differently or if they only connect together one way, right? Like, can she put them together so they're like bull horns? Or can she do it so like one is pointing to axis Z and one is pointing to axis Y? Like, does it work that way, or is it simply like they stick together in this kind of S-shaped fashion? I've got a buddy that bought 2 Force Effects Asajj Ventress sabers.
Yeah.
And they're not round, right? So they're like the actual hilt is like rectangular or square.
Okay.
So when you put them together, they only fit together one way, and it makes that kind of S-shaped pattern.
I will have to look at that, because that's a good question, because I think in where they connect, is that meeting point perpendicular at 90 degrees to the 2 sabers? Because even though they're offset from one another, the 2 sabers definitely are pointed at complete 180 away from each other, just not right at the same point, right?
Correct. It's like if you took Darth Maul's lightsaber and just kind of bent the ends in opposite directions a little bit.
While still having the sabers still point in the exact same direction they originally were.
Right. You should be able to lay it on a flat surface, and the hilt you would see from above like a slight S shape.
Yes.
But the beams would shoot out and not stab into the floor or be stab into the air.
Yeah.
Like they would just be level.
So then my question is that meeting point, then is it at a 90 degree, or are the 2 ends of the blades still slightly angled, and then the angle is where they meet? You get what I'm saying? Because
run through that one more time.
So visually speaking, if they're offset like this, right?
Right.
Because theoretically, no matter what way you're twisting it, so like even in terms of bullhorns, the bullhorns would still be facing left and right.
I think if you do it like this, for our listeners, Lorenzo and I are pantomiming.
Yeah, it's
our
such
fingers
a visual thing, and it's very difficult to try and explain.
To show what direction these things would be facing. But I think they have to lock together like in one way.
Yeah.
So
there's no way you can
be
get
like
them
this. So you couldn't have one like shooting up and one shooting out.
Yeah, you can't get like a fork configuration on them, right? Like a 2-prong fork. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So then my question is too then, in terms of having the 2 sabers offset from each other, like what practicality does that have? That just seems like it's off balance when you're trying to spin it, right? Like,
so I remember bringing this up to someone when episode 2 came out, because like everybody thought Dooku saber was like fucking badass because like it had the curved handle, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the way he holds it on the flat part.
Yes.
And the part that sticks out the bottom of his palm is the part that is curved.
Yes.
And I feel like Ventress is not that way. I feel like she holds the curved part, and the part sticking out the top of her hand
I thought she was still holding on to the flat end, like Dooku. Yeah, Dooku's is just a flourish, apparently. Like he's not holding on to that back end really.
He's not at all.
Yeah, even in a two-hand pose, that bottom bend is still kind of popping out. He's not really using it for a lot of leverage. Yeah,
correct.
But I feel like Asajj Ventress was still kind of doing something similar, although hers just looked smaller and lighter, and leaner per se.
Yeah, hers are a weird design. Like if you look at them, like I said, that old friend of mine that had the Force Effects ones, they're boxy shaped. It's interesting.
I know at Tomorrowland they have one on display. I'll have to.
A Ventress one?
Yeah.
No shit.
They have Star Wars Launch Bay, and they have essentially what is a museum to everything. So they have props from, even though it's an animated stuff, like they have Sabine's helmet there too, as if it were a real thing. So I know I've seen a Ventress's lightsaber there. Because
know what? Go ahead.
They have the hilt for Ezra's too, the one with the little blaster in the bottom of it,
which is fucking cool.
I do like that one. That one is quite practical for the growing the growing Jedi. But no, I'll have to take a look at it and see what they do, because I think they show them connected too, so I'll have to see what it looks like next time I'm there.
Yeah, I just did a little bit of Google research on Asajj Ventress lightsabers, and if you simply type in Ventress lightsaber and go to Google Images, there is obviously quite a few pictures, but it looks like there's multiple designs here. So to kind of lock it down into what exactly the thing looks like, and even it looks like the ignition switch or the ignition point is kind of different on a couple of these different designs. So maybe
let me do my research on the weekend then, because the one Disney's got displayed has to be as close to full-blown canon as you get, right?
Yeah. I would imagine.
I'll report back to you. I'll report back next time we record. Yeah.
I'm actually going to send you an image here real quick if I can find it again.
All right. So,
yeah, maybe continue it with what's going on with the plot here, and I think we're kind of coming to an end on.
Yeah, because now this is where I'm confused, because I was trying to make my way forward, and then we kind of made our way back, and then now this is the cutoff where I definitely got a little lost. The seams between this one and the last section of Clone Wars theatrical kind of definitely blended in a lot better than especially the first one, between parts 1 and 2.
Yes.
That was such a clear divide.
Yes.
So I think on this one, Kevin, you kind of picked a spot that seemed to make some decent sense.
Yes. So our two main heroes, Anakin and Ahsoka, they get off Teth. They get past Yularen, which didn't take them too much effort.
No.
And they are, as Lorenzo has been alluding to, they're on their way to Tatooine. So to kind of wrap up this section of Castle of Doom, Obi-Wan is fighting Ventress, and like Lorenzo said, man, she had her lightsabers locked together, and Obi-Wan actually cuts him in half.
Yes.
He cuts that hilt in half, which is weird because I'm pretty sure that she just sticks them back together later and everything's good, which fucking pissed me off highly.
Yeah, because Darth Maul's is one actual
and it's like
piece
destroyed.
Together. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, his gets fully destroyed for sure. But I feel maybe because I don't know. Like, are the Jedi always just gonna cut on the perfect seam? You know, like.
Right.
Because I got nothing. I got nothing on that one either. But I
Yeah.
noticed that too, that they get cut in half, and then she doesn't freak out that much about it, and she still has the ability to use them, right?
Yeah, they both work just fine. And
Yeah.
then Obi-Wan actually like knocks one out of her hand, and I think that's when she decides, hey, the gig's up, like it's time to save face and get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And she calls essentially like a vulture droid over or something, hops off the little walkway that they were on, and lands on a droid and takes off, and just she leaves the battle. You don't see her and Obi-Wan fighting after that, and then Obi-Wan like goes back to Rex, I guess, and I think they all just like carpool back up to Good Red Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
And I think that if I remember correctly, at the very end of this segment, Asajj talks to Dooku again, and they kind of reformulate their plan again, because it was don't let them leave Teth, kill the Hutt if you have to. But since Anakin and Ahsoka escaped, they have to kind of reformulate. So I think that maybe we'll see what that brings for our two heroes in the conclusion of the Clone Wars next week.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll just cut it off right there.
Yeah. Yes.
If that works for you.
Yes, because I'm trying to make. I remember something else, but I think it's because I was watching a little too far, so I don't want to say it. And if we miss it, then we'll just say it next time.
Okay.
Where they make another announcement to Jabba. That's the next segment, right? Anything back on Tatooine is next segment. Yeah, I think that was the cut we determined, was that once they get back on Tatooine. Yeah.
And if anybody's wondering like how we got to this, like Lorenzo said a couple episodes ago, I think maybe 2 weeks ago or last week or something, like we knew that we were gonna divide the movie up into sections, because we're sticking to that about 22-ish minute mark of material that we're covering each week, and so we wanted to take the movie and kind of chop it up a little bit. In looking into it, it originally was 4 separate episodes that were just kind of smashed together, and in the description of those episodes for Castle of Deception, it was basically Anakin and Ahsoka go find Rotta. Then Castle of Doom was they have Rotta, they're taking Rotta to Tatooine.
Yeah.
And Castle of Salvation, give you a little heads up for what's coming next week, they're on Tatooine and they're taking Rotta across Tatooine to Jabba.
Yeah.
Like that was the description of those 3 sections of the Clone Wars movie. So that's why we chose to kind of cut things where we cut them.
Yeah. Because, like I said, the first one definitely is a clear cut, where they're on Christophsis and then they're not. Like, there's a wipe. That makes sense. And this one, like, the stories definitely get better about kind of leading into one another without having such an obvious wrap. Like, especially with Christophsis, like, things are wrapped up, right?
Wrapped the fuck up. Yeah. We're off Christophsis, finally.
This battle is done, right? Like, we are set with this one and moving on, right? But with these three are definitely one story that, that we're,
I was going to say, I think
picking apart. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that's a good segue into kind of us wrapping this thing up with thumbs up, thumbs down, and what you thought of this episode. Because I feel bad cutting you off to kind of bring that up, because Lorenzo was saying some positive things about the Clone Wars here, and I had to open my big fucking mouth and ask him a question. But
no.
What do you got? Thumbs up, thumbs down here?
I'm still gonna go thumbs down. It's not as hard hard call as, say, some of the other sections of this movie, or some of the other 2 episodes we have seen thus far.
Right.
But nonetheless, like you said, we'll wrap it up next week. But we're an hour and 9 minutes into the sucker, right? Is where we're at the end of this.
1 hour 9 minutes and 32 seconds, I think.
If you're watching it all together, that is the longest 1 hour and 9 minutes I've ever had to deal with.
So just judge these last 21 minutes.
So just the last 21 minutes, taken on their own. There are still some weird decisions that are being made. Rotta is annoying as shit still.
Okay.
I have never actively wanted somebody to more die in quite some time, right?
Right.
And the fact that Rex is willing to die so that Rotta can be sent away,
right,
is just,
it tugs at your heartstrings, man.
But it's the weirdest priorities, right? And going back to episode 1 or section 1 of this feature, where it's they want to make friends with Jabba because of shipping routes, So
yes,
Rex as a leader and commander is worth less than the shipping route. Okay.
Yes, the Hov lane, the express lane, high occupancy vehicle, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Jabba's got the lockdown on that, and that's what Rex is willing to die for.
If there's such an important shipping lane there, why is it an outer rim dead planet that Luke describes in A New Hope?
Well, if it's a fucking outer rim planet, why are there so many shipping lanes?
Well, that's what I'm. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Is that
the same question you're asking?
Yeah. It's like saying,
if you go to Siberia, there's not a bunch of thoroughfare trade routes.
There's only so many rails going through there, but it's for the way they're describing it, it's fucking Boston Harbor, which maybe not as popular as New York Harbor, but there's still some fucking important shipping routes being dropped off there, right?
Right.
Boston's still a major port area.
Well, I kind of feel like it would be more Tatooine is situated in a place that is between New York and Chicago. New York.
So it's Toledo, Ohio.
Well, no, because it's also in between, London and Shanghai, and it's also in between Johannesburg and Rio de Janeiro. It can't be the crossroads of fucking everything.
Yeah, but every story brings us back to Tatooine somehow,
right,
which undoes Luke's desperation to get off the fucking planet.
Right.
So that's another major outside of the point. But as for this episode alone, it's not as offensive as the other ones, but it's
still a thumbs down.
Yeah, it's not great. I did not have a good time with this one.
I'm going thumbs up on this one.
All right.
There was more that I liked than I disliked, and that is how I'm going to judge the thumbs up, thumbs down segment of our show here. And yeah, there's shit that bugs me, and there's shit that doesn't make sense. There's literal giant mosquitoes.
Yeah.
That people can ride on. And at one point, R2 is carrying the backpack on his stomach, flying through the air with his jetpacks.
Yeah.
With Rotta in it. But the other stuff that come along with it, those little moments that make me smile, those little subtle hints and details and stuff like that, are the things that make me give this a thumbs up. So I'm thumbs up on it, and I think after this, next week's going to be a big one for us. We're going to be finishing the Clone Wars movie, and we can give our final judgments and judge the movie as a whole.
Yes, yeah.
Instead of in these little sections. So, do you have any little preview hints for next week that you wanted to throw out there?
No.
Because I've got one.
You go for it, because I still need to sit down and watch the rest of that movie, actually. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So, next week on These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For, you're going to be able to hear the rest of the Clone Wars movie. But that episode is titled Castle of Salvation, which sounds like we've got some hope coming along. And we are actually introduced to another hut. And I think next week you can hear our opinions on that. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Oh, yeah, it just all came back to me.
Oh, man.
I forgot that was a thing coming up. But
so you'll have to wait till next week to find out what we think of that. But until then, if you want to get in touch with us on any type of social medias, Lorenzo, you got those handy?
The Twitter is at Not the Nerds. Just not at Not the Nerds.
Yep.
One of these weeks I'll get it perfectly straight.
Instagram and Twitter are both at Not the Nerds.
At Not the Nerds. Gmail and Facebook are at Not the Nerds Podcast.
That is correct.
So Facebook at Not the Nerds Podcast, or if you just search at Not the Nerds or These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For into Facebook, we should show up. If you want to email us, that's notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com.
Correct.
So, yeah, Kevin's pretty active on the Twitter side of things. I'm taking care of the Facebook side of things, and all right, we haven't checked the email lately, have we? Have you checked the email?
I actually, yeah. So far, we have had 0 emails from listeners.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But we do get, whenever there's like Twitter stuff happening.
Yeah. The Twitter is
emails.
Active. Yeah, Twitter's active.
We get emails on that. So mentions, likes, retweets, all that stuff come to our email. But an actual email from somebody that has listened to any of this and had any type of feedback would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm curious.
If you want to go old school.
So if you want to do that, or wherever you're listening to this, iTunes and or Google Play, if you want to subscribe and review us, please let us know.
Give us a review.
Yeah, I would love to see a review, good or bad. I would love to see it.
I don't even know how to check that. So homework for you guys out there.
Page. Yeah,
I don't know how to do that.
I'll lead you through. It's okay.
Honestly, Lorenzo is the tech genius here, and I'm just some schmuck hiding behind the dumpster talking about Star Wars. So
you got the microphone set up. That's a lot more than a lot of other people I've worked with. So
well, there we go.
You're good. So any other things? Yeah.
Yep. The only other thing we got is to give our thanks to Lindsay over at Strange Fantasy Music. You can hit her up at on Gmail at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She was kind enough to put together our intro outro music, and then we've got our graphic designer Kevin Warren. You can hit him up over on Twitter at They Call Me KDub. So that's all I've got for this week. How about you, Lorenzo?
Nope, that's all. I'll head off to Disneyland and then take a look at the lightsaber that they have on display and see what we got.
What a lucky guy.
I will let you know what that looks like.
Alrighty. We'll see you guys next week.
Research purposes, yeah. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.